All right, friends, now we're at the big, let's do something with this video that we shot in a moment. We want to put some video out. You know, the one thing we might should have done is brought in a piece of music before we do that. I'm going to really quickly go do that. So this is a little bit of review. On my Extreme 500, I have some Digital Juice royalty-free music, which I am going to go grab here. Let's see if I can find it. Digital Juice stack tracks, and I'm going to use something real subtle impact here. This sounds good for me. We'll use Bright New Day 30 seconds, and we'll say import. So now I got a bit of music. It's kind of spunky little music that's probably inappropriate for this, but that's all right. And I maybe don't want it to be so loud, so I'm going to click on it. I'm going to right click, I'm going to change audio gain, and we're going to pull that down to about -7 decibels. Then I'm going to clip, I'm going to hit the C key, I'm going to cut the audio right there, hit the V key, I'm going to select this audio and delete it, and I'm going to fade that audio out, apply default transitions. And now we have a piece of video with some music on it. My, isn't that fun? Okay, here we go. So now we want to export this video to YouTube or Vimeo or whatever else. What you want to do, you want to click on this window typically. Now you can click on this one as well, but it doesn't matter which one. I think it's better to do this one. That means we're telling it to render out this area here that has blue around it. We're going to render out this sequence or this timeline. You're going to go up under File, you're going to go to Export Media. Now this is going to bring up a highly confusing box for some people. Whole lot of stuff you can do here. And you know, I can show you presets. I can show you so many presets it'll just boggle your mind. But let's go ahead and do it for fun. And look at all this. Man alive, there's just a ton of presets here. If we keep going down, there's all these YouTube, you might say YouTube HD 1080p. So if we want to, even though we shot all 4K video, we might want to export it in 1080p. This is 4K video, so you could choose YouTube. You go here and you pick Vimeo. It looks like Vimeo only allows up to 1080p. I didn't know that. But these are all presets as of when the software came out. You got your Apple, Android. Don't let all this confuse you. You can pick that if you like. It doesn't matter if you want to go out to YouTube in 1080p. You don't want to upload in 4K. Then you could pick that and do it. And what it's going to do, it's going to give you recommended quality, recommended size. Just some parameters. You can grab that and pull it if you want to see even more. That might work really well for YouTube. Me, I'm the kind of guy that does this thing. If you want to pick this preset and export it, you can certainly do that. I like having, doing it the way that I like to do it, is just let it be the video that it is, unless there's some compelling reason for me to size it down. So you can see that YouTube does use what's called H.264 video. This is still sort of the main standard. H.265 has come out, and it's probably going to become the new hot thing, but still most people at this point still use H.264. And they got YouTube 1080p, HD. Me, I usually just do this. I usually just do something different. I usually do match source, and that gives me the exact size. It's 2160 by 3840. So I'm in custom. It automatically goes to custom if you're going to start doing something that is your own thing. Now, however, since you don't know, you might not understand much about target bit rates. If you want to use the presets first, that's fine. I will tell you that 1080p video, 16 megs per second is awesome. A lot of times here, what you got a target bit rate and you got a maximum bit rate. Now, what that means is, particularly in sports videos where you're moving around a lot, sometimes it needs to make the video look really good and sharp. You might need to up this a little bit down here. You might want to go to about 22. That's if we're doing motion video. And what that does is in spurts, in places where the video is more complicated, it allows more data to be dedicated to that part. So you can make it so that you can, if there's lots of changing scenery, limbs, twigs, rocks flying past you, you're on a mountain bike and you've got all kinds of tree limbs and things, and it becomes a very, what we call, complicated bit of video. The more It's one of the more things, the more twisty-turny shapes and things that are in video, the more bit rate it takes to render out. So I'm just giving you a little bit of why I do what I do. A lot of times, if I'm going to do 4K video, typically 4K needs 4 times what this is. So we do probably about 60 megs per second. Don't you do this unless you're doing 4K. So this might be a bad way what I'm telling you here, but for 4K I do 60 to 70 usually. For 1080p, a lot of times I'll do 15 to 20. So I'm even doing a little less than what YouTube asks you to do. Now what's kind of cool is you'll notice down here, as you change these things, it gives you an estimate of how big the file is going to be. So this is a short file, it's less than 10 seconds. And we can see it's going to be about 17 megs if I do this in 4K at that size. But if I do it in 60 to 70 like I usually do, then you can see it's going to be 68 megs. But so if you got a 10-minute piece of video, which is long, you'll see you'll get up into the gigs here pretty quick. So you got to know, you can look at that and you say, wow, how long is it going to take my computer to upload that? But if you got a lot of bandwidth and you really care for your video to look good, you give it plenty of resolution and plenty of bit rate. Resolution is how many pixels they're tall by wide. Bit rate is how much data you're allowing per frame, per second, or whatever to, it's actually per second, is it megabytes per second, Mbps. So bit rate is how much data you're allowing it to represent your frames per second. So right now I have 24 frame per second video. Sometimes I'll shoot in 48, but export at 24. So you can turn any of these off if you want to. And sometimes if you'll shoot at a higher frame rate, you might want to go lower. I don't want to confuse you with that. We'll come back later and we'll talk way more in depth about this. But for now, the safe thing to do is just pick whatever you're comfortable with. Let's say I did want to size this down to 1080p. I might go back and choose that YouTube output. As it is now, I'm going to leave my custom one. I'll tell you a tip that I do. I usually do render at maximum depth. That's because I might want to come in later and do some additional color grading to this. And if I pick this, it makes it easier to come back in and do additional color grading. I'm also going to use maximum render quality. That's what I do. Now, before I go out of it, we're not going to delve too deeply into this. I just want you to know it's there. You do have an audio up here where you can choose how you want your audio. Sometimes if you have to make a very small file for transferring, you can change your audio to a smaller bit rate or something here. I very seldom go in here and mess with this, but it is there. So now we have to decide what are we going to call this video and where are we going to put it, where's it going to go to. You go up here to output name. Now this sequence was called color, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it that. And I'm in my Premiere Learning folder, which is where I want to be. But if you want to go somewhere else, you just go over here and pick a different folder for it to go into. So this one happens to be going exactly where I want it to go. If I want to put it on the root drive, if I want to put it on the desktop, I go over here and click desktop. And on a PC, you're going to end up with the same sort of thing. You just choose where you want it to go. I'm happy with where that's going to go. I'm going to hit save. And now I can do, there's two things I can do here. If I have 5 or 6 videos that I want to render out, just let them render while I go eat lunch. I can go to Q and it's going to pull up Adobe Media Encoder, which is a separate program from Premiere. And I can actually tell it to render out 5 videos while I go away. Maybe I want to go to bed at night and have 5 videos waiting for me the next morning. We'll talk more about Adobe Media Encoder later. For now, we're just going to export our first video. We're going to click export. And you see first it's going to go, it says it's estimating time. A lot of times it will do audio first. It will render the audio out. Since this is a small file, it's just doing it all at once, it looks like. So we're in the middle of an encode. You see it's happening pretty quickly because it's short. But we did do some color grading. What can make this longer, this whole process of encoding, is how many transitions did you put in, how many titles did you put in, how much color grading, how much editing did you do. If we had gone in there and just pulled the clips in and exported them, it wouldn't have made any big difference in the world and we could have been done with it right fast. But there we go, we've just exported our first video. Now sometimes it gets to the end and you have to wait a little while longer while it actually writes the file. Now where did the file go? The file didn't go in here. We could have told it to go in here, but we didn't do that. And if we want to pull it in, we can certainly right click in here and we're in Premiere Learning. Now if you want to find it, it's called Color. There it is, Color MP4. You can also do date modified, and it'll pull the latest thing that came in there. If I want to pull it in, we can. I tell you what I like to do though. I like to just go ahead and look at it outside of Premiere. I don't want to look at it inside the window. I mean, we could pull it up this way. Click on this. Now we're in our preview mode, and I'm going to click on this. We talked about the tilde key before. Remember, the tilde is the little key that looks like a wave, right? It looks just like this right here, and it's in the upper left of your keyboard. Since I have this selected, any window that's clicked on, I can click on it and I can tilde it. I can click the tilde, and it gives me the full-sized video. So I'm gonna go ahead, let's play it out of this. I usually open it up in QuickTime and test it that way, but let's play within here. I'm at 1/8 quality though. I want to go to full quality. So let's look at this in full quality. And here we go, here's our edits. Cool, and there's our little short video. I'll click the tilde key again to get out of that. All right, there we did, okay. I didn't click it hard enough. So I'm gonna close this for a minute. And so now I know that it's in my extreme. I know that it's in, so let's go look at this way. I'm gonna go to date modified, Premiere Learning, there it is. And here's where the file is. So now if I want to upload to YouTube, all I have to do is go to my YouTube channel. Let's type up YouTube. Okay, and I go to upload, and it pulls up my select files to upload, which I can either select, or I could grab color MP4 and drag it in here. You see how it's ready to take that. I'm not going to do that. So there we go. Folks, we just finished, but that is how you would export your video to upload to YouTube, to Vimeo, whatever. Some people still do crazy DVDs, Blu-rays. We will go over that again, how to export to digital media in a later video.